ilaha illallah, Allahu Akbar, Muhammad Rasulullah, Ya Habib Allah.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Dear viewers, the topic today, we shall be making an exploration on the causes of Muslim conflict and the way forward in Uganda. Before I commence, may Allah the Omnipotent, the Compassionate, the King of Majesty and Supremacy, on the day of reckoning, reward each and everybody abundantly, and may Allah promote peace and harmony in our country, so that Muslims, regardless of the outcome of the politics, we can stand together as one nation, because the diversities we have makes Uganda a better state. So I call upon fellow Ugandans to promote peace in our country. Peace is a yardstick of prosperity and development. In regard to my topic, before I continue, I take this opportunity to thank Dr. Anas Kalisa, who is among the pioneers of this dawah of propagation of Islam, especially he does it so much on televisions, and I call him ulama for his work. May Allah bless him and give him a longevity with the purpose, and may Allah grant him Jannah and also protect him from the enemies within, with the Muslims and non-Muslims. I also take the opportunity to thank Haji Mutasa Kafero from Kajara, those among the Muslims who migrated to Ankole, who spearheaded Islam. May Allah also give them tawfiq, inshallah. Okay, the topic today, as we all know, is about Islam in Uganda. In my introduction, I'll try to explore how Islam came into Uganda in a gistro. You know that we all know that the Muslim wrangles in Uganda are also part of how Islam came in Uganda. We know that Islam came in Uganda through northern Uganda in 1830, and Islam reached in Uganda in 1844. And during that time, we know that since Islam came into Uganda, since 1830 up to now, there are almost 186 years since Islam came into Uganda. Roughly 140 years or 42 years. And you will see that when Islam came into Uganda, we have two people. We had the Egyptians, we had the Sudanese. Islam came through the Sudanese into Uganda. Then also another bunch came from Zanzibar, and they came. During the time when Islam came into Uganda, we had a group which was headed by Ahmed bin Ibrahim, who came to Sunnah. That one is a group from Egypt. And during the time when they came, we had Mutesa. Later we had Mutesa, who was the Kabaka of Buganda. When he came when Mutesa was the leader of the Muslims during that time, he butchered or killed or massacred other people who were not Muslims. However, the irony that is attached to him, when Muslims complained that he has to be circumcised and he cannot lead the congregation prayers, then she ordered 300 Muslims to be killed. And after killing the Muslims who tried to contest against his program, that's what we see, that Muslims were the first martyrs or martyrdom pillars at Namugongo. Then we can also know that after that, we got some other wrangles. The wrangles continued. You will see that from the wrangles between Tribe Magato, who was the chief of Tambara and the Kakunguru, over the leadership of Muslim community. Then we had the Jumankada and others. So that was a part of the introduction. However, a point that has to be taken into point. Disturbing the Muslims in Uganda have got so much in common, except for little difference. Unfortunately, they concentrate so much on the little differences that has led to the perpetual disputes amongst them. Muslims are very good and kind people, but because of the negativity stereotype attached to them, they do not know that they have got a good heart and they have good morals. So it is also a point to note that regardless of the differences and problems, Muslims are very good people. Now, what are the main causes of Muslim wrangles in Uganda? As you know that the cause of Muslim conflicts in Uganda can be traced from the historical perspective to the current issues. And for the purpose of this presentation, I will articulate and document the reasons for the Muslim wrangles in a chronological order as follows. Pre-colonial period. The spread of Islam first and foremost, the manner and the method of the spread of Islam led to conflicts. Unlike Christianity that was spread by the missionaries, Islam was spread by traders on a voluntary basis. And some of the traders lacked knowledge. Hence, there was no order and mission during the spread of Islam, a trend that has persisted to the present day. Another factor or another point is misinterpretation and misunderstanding. There was a misinterpretation and misunderstanding of the Quran and Hadith by the local sheikhs. For example, Zanzibaris, when they came to Uganda, allowed Kabaka to lead prayers as a sign of tolerance and respect, much as he was not circumcised, since Kabaka was not supposed to shed blood. You see, the Zanzibars ended up supporting the traditional ideology that kings don't circumcise to spread blood. So when the Zanzibaris came, they played the politics whereby they supported the king that is not supposed to be circumcised, but he can lead prayer and be the head. However, this move was opposed by the Egyptian Sudanese radicals who believed that the Kabaka should have been circumcised. They even argued that his mosque was facing a wrong direction, not the Qibla. Thus, conflict within Muslim fraternity broke out, resulting in the debacle of Muslim martyrs who were murdered by Mukanjanga under the orders of Mutesa I. The arrival of Christianity is another factor that indeed ignited that social hysteria, ignited the political barometer. You will see that there was a short interval of 32 years between the spread of Islam and the arrival of Christianity. Because as we know that Christianity arrived in Uganda in 1877 and Roman Catholic under Brother Hamans and Loudley in 1879. Since Christian missionaries were the forerunners of colonialism in Uganda, the two worked hand in glove to curtail Islam at all levels in the country, and this brought fresh conflicts between Muslims and the colonial masters. Matters were made worse when the colonials left the control of education, which was a tool for development, entirely in the hands of missionaries. Hence, a Muslim could not send their children to Christian schools, which served as a conversion centers. For example, Professor Yusuf Rule, who got converted to Christianity while at Budo, still remains a vivid example in this saga. We all know that Muslims were denied education during that time, and the denial of Muslim education is a yardstick of impediment that most Muslims were not allowed to perspire in any of the government posts or any academic posts. It is in fact a blessing that now we have Muslims, me and others, who are ranking to level of PhD holders in law. So this is a blessing now. Initially, it was hard for Muslims to reach such a yardstick. Another factor that is of point, the product of the colonial aided missionary school ended up taking all the jobs, leaving their Muslim counterparts who were products of the Quran schools to become third-class citizens. The denial of the Muslims to attain higher education was also a buffer stock, whereby Muslims ended up doing the following jobs: dwellers of water, tax drivers, butcher, and so forth. Therefore, this led to a population that was not satisfied, and this became a source of conflict. The Muslims got that anxiety inside because of what was surrounding them, and this also led to the conflict. The colonists gave land to chiefs and missionaries. This is a very, very big issue. The missionaries were the Muslims were ignored, and during the 1900 Buganda Agreement, they were allocated only one county, Butambala, which was very small, very infertile, located only one country, which was very small and dry. And this happened after the colonists had seriously beaten the Muslims into total submission. This denied Muslims the source of wealth, socio-economic development, and created imbalances and ill feeling towards their fellow countrymen and sitting governments, since they saw them as since they were seen as being discriminated. Another factor that is of paramount, the division within the Muslims. The colonists found the Muslims already divided because of the other factor I talked about between Khadif Ismail and the Zanzibaris, the way they interpreted the Quran, whereby the other people followed them Kabaka because he's not circumcised. Then the other group said you cannot follow Kabaka who's not circumcised. And this, remember, as I talked about in my introduction, that those divisions, many Muslims were killed. So the divisions within the Muslims is a very big factor that led to conflict in Islam itself. It ignited it better. Since the time colonists came, they found the Muslims already divided. The theological fight between Prince Badu Kakunguru and Sheikh Abdullah Sekman is a factor that cannot be taken out of context. The colonists argued that their duty was to throw Islam back to Sudan, and they only tolerated Islam because they found it already here. We all know that by the time the white people came to Uganda, the composition of Muslims were almost 90%. The so-called civilization of Uganda, indeed it is an inculcation of Islamic jurisprudence. And one would say that Uganda was very civilized. It is because by the time colonists came to Uganda, it was Muslims dominated the social, political, and economic spheres of life within Uganda. So this is a landmark issue that people should understand about Muslims and their civilization. Post-colonial era in continuation, the situation of Islam did not change during the post-colonial era, since those who took over power were products of the colonial missionary system, and they brought no dramatic changes in the Muslims. Then, another factor that we all know after pre-colonial, then we know the time of when we remember after independence period, 1965, when we had the NAM group. When I talk NAM, that was ignited by people like Sheikh Obed Kamlegia, National Association of Muslims, who argued that Islam should be headed only by intellectuals, those who are educated, not people who would say that hereditary leader, but intellectuals to aid Islam or Islamic jurisprudence. And that was the core issue on NAM. And NAM were against the Chibuli ideology that because of their support within the colonial perspective, that Islam should be led by the Shibuli function because of the role played by Nuhumbogo, Mutesa, and so forth. So that was the Shibuli perspective. And the NAM group, which were also much ignited by Sheikh Obed Kamlegia, said no, Islam should only be headed by scholars. So we know that a group of Muslim elites supported by UPC government formed an association better known as the National Association for the Advancement of Muslims, which is called NAM, with headquarters at Wandegeya. Sheikh Salam Swaib Semakula was a senior sheikh at Shibuli, close to NAM, and was declared the first mufti of Uganda. Iqbal Adeko Nyakon, a cousin to Obote, became a president of NAM, deputized by Sheikh Abdul Obed Kamlegeya. Is still around. May Allah bless him. Important to note is that although NAM aims were to promote Islam, it instead used government patronage to seize mosques belonging to Uganda Muslim community at Kibuli. This resulted in two bloody clashes between the two groups, Kibuli and Wandegeya for NAM, in Kemishigo and Kajara in Ankole. A very big point on Nam. It is also noted in 1971, Idi Amin Dada overthrew Bote in the coup d'etat, taking over the reins of power in Uganda. One of his first aims was to readdress the imbalance within the Muslim community by colonial and post regimes. In order to undertake that, he formed the Uganda Muslim Supreme Council. I think that was around 1972, following a religious conference at Kabale, Uganda Muslim Supreme Council, with headquarters at Fort Rugadi, which is currently Old Kampala, under secular constitution that was prepared by Solicitor General Mugerwa, and they were the factions had to input. However, Amin tried to bring remedy within the Muslim during his time. Sheikh Maula and Abdurazak Matovu became the chief Qadhi and Sheikh Islam Ali Kurumba his deputy. Important to note that the NAM faction came out of the conference victorious, having taken all the UNESCO positions except that of the deputy Qadhi, which was bargained by Idi Amin himself. As a founder of UNESCO, Amin controlled all the operation of the organization, where he appointed and dismissed leaders at his will. For instance, he dismissed the first chief Qadhi, Sheikh Abdurazak Matov, on allegations of incompetence, and sent his successor Sheikh Sulaiman Matov on first leave because of ill health, resulting to an arranged motor accident. The UNESCO was left without top leadership up to the time of Idi Amin deposition in 1979. By the time of his overthrow, he had placed the administration of Uganda Muslim Supreme Council in the hands of his Secretary of Defense by names of Emilio Mondo, and by the hands of Emilio Mondo, who was a non-Muslim. So Muslims should know that at times, after the collapse of Amin, the most powerful person heading Islam was a non-Muslim. So a point to note. Since now, post-Amin era, after Amin has left, what was next? A point to note, which I call a post-Amin era. Since UNESCO was Amin's project, as I told you, after seeing the division within the Muslims, he tried to engulf Muslims at Kabul to come up with the ideologies or solutions to Muslim wrangles and conflict. Now, all we know that by 1979, with the support of Tanzania and President Museveni's group, Amin was overthrown and he went into exile. May Allah grant him Jannah. He died in Saudi Arabia. Since UNESCO was Amin's project, it collapsed with the departure of Amin in 1979. But Paulo Mwanga, the UNLF Minister of Internal Affairs, requested Prince Badru Kakungulu for possible Muslim leader, and thus Sheikh Kasim Mulumba was appointed an interim mufti with a tenure of office for only 6 months. Unfortunately, Sheikh Mulumba exceeded the mandate given to him and prompted the stakeholders to elect a parallel Uganda Muslim Supreme Council administration in an assembly that took place at Makerere University in 1980. The assembly elected Sheikh Obedi Kamlegea as the new Mufti of Uganda and Prince Badru Kakungulu as the new chairperson of UNESCO. Unfortunately, Mulumba continued to hold a parallel office over the Mufti. Prince Badru Kakungulu later managed to convince the two competing Muftis to work together in the same administration. Thus, Kamlegea agreed to step down to the position of Deputy Mufti. This arrangement did not last long, while Sheikh Mulumba resigned under pressure from Kamlegea's faction, and as he did this, Sheikh Kamlegea took over the office of the Mufti as well as the headquarters of Uganda Muslim Supreme Council at Old Kampala. Under pressure, Sheikh Mulumba renewed his claims to muftiship immediately and relocated to Masjid Nur on William Street. Remember, This was recently that the land that was sold to Drake Rubega, and this one, you all Muslims, you know that was among the property that Muslims were demanding from Uganda Supreme Council. But the good thing out of it, recently, 2 months prior to election, the president of Uganda, having cleared the payment to Drake Rubega, the title came back to the Muslims, and the title was given to Sheikh Mubadde Mubaje. The advantage, I was there at the time when this title was given to him. We pray that this title goes into good hands and it is kept to the Muslim community, so that the trustees do not breach their fiduciary duties as trustees to the Muslim community. In a continuity to when Sheikh Murumba did not comply with the Kamlegea and he left and he had to emerge and put up his office at Masjid Nur, Kamlegea used the police force, because after speaking to Murumba and Murumba did not try to negotiate or understand, Kamlegea used the government artillery, that is the police, to force or evict Murumba, who reallocated now to a small mosque along Lubaga Road. Those who go to Lubaga Road, when Murumba was evicted from William, then he had to allocate to Lubaga Road. But the point is, you are given 6 months, temporary leadership, time comes for change and election, you say, I'm not coming out of power. And this is now also a problem that even up to now, the so-called leaders of Muslims, when we tell them that let us change, they think that they are the only leaders that are supposed to be leading Islam. This is causing more trouble to the Muslim community. So we apologize and seek guidance that you Muslims of today, if your leaders, Mufti and others, please try to leave power when time comes, so that you help Islam. Do not force yourself to be a leader of Muslims. And this one, as I told you, that Murumba relocated to Lubaga Road, popularly known as Kabalaza, where he continued to challenge Uganda Muslim Supreme Council leadership at Old Kampala. That was the time after Idi Amin Dada. And now, that was Murumba when they were taking over power. Then the next regime was the regime of Tito Okello Lutwa. Following the 1985 coup by Tito Okello, Murumba also executed his own coup at Old Kampala against Abdul Obed Kamlegea. The January 1986 NRM took over, found the two Muslim rivals in Mecca. Remember, the two Muslim rivals, that was Murumba and Kamlegea. By the time NRM came power in January 1986, all of them were in Mecca trying to present Uganda at a Muslim World League annual conference. All we know that there was a conference, what we call the Makkah Agreement. The Makkah Agreement was also another remedy of reconciling the Muslims, so that the Muslims could live together in harmony. Talks were held between the rivals, resulting in Makkah Agreement after failure of successive agreements to solve the Muslim leadership in Uganda. These governments instead had interviewed in Muslim faith. These governments tried to intervene, but were exploiting Islam and dividing the Muslims more. So the issue of the Mecca Agreement was to find a solution to the historical Muslim wrangles and problems. The purpose of the Mecca Agreement was to unite the two warring factions, that is Sheikh Obed Kamlegea and Sheikh Murumba, the late, may Allah grant him Jannah. This quest for Muslim unity was initiated with the support of Saudi Arabia. It was agreed to drop the 2 point taken. It was agreed that the two advocates, that is Sheikh Obed Kamlegea and Murumba, should step down in order to promote the glory of Islam. Indeed, this is not news. And elect an interim chief Qadi, Sheikh Hussein Rajab Kakoza, deputized by Sheikh Ibrahim Sadi Luwemba. And this is, in fact, even recent, as you all remember, in the Kabojira report. In the Kabojira report, one of the landmark recommendation, they recommended the Mufti Mubaje and the late Zubairu Kayongo to step down in order to create a new ground to elect new and neutral people that are not attached to post-conflicts so that Islam can go forward. Ironically, the two refused to step down. In continuity, a constitutional review commission was set up to review the 1972 constitution. Later elections were held right from village mosques, and through that, eventually Ruwemba was elected the Mufti, deputized by Sheikh Muhammad Semakula. The Kakoza function group, allied with the Tabligh group led by Sheikh Muhammad Kamoga, tried to block the Ruwemba group from taking over Aga Khan Mosque. By then was the head of Uganda Muslim headquarters. The Ruwemba group retreated in the Supreme Court in 1991, where Ruwemba was installed as the Mufti of Uganda. As soon as the court declared Ruwemba Mufti, the Tablighs attacked Old Kampala. We all know the Tabligh saga, whereby even some dogs had to be killed by the Tabligh, and the term came the Tabligh dog saga. And through this, it took the mobile efforts of mobile, whereby it took the mobile police and military to surround up most of these Tablighs, and most of them went to Rizla in order to promote peace and harmony, and also to keep the Kampala a safer place. The Muslim Community Conference at invitation of President of the Republic of Uganda Delegates Conference was set up and was represented by 6 persons. Professor George Kanyamba was the chair, and Hajat Anuna Omaru, Captain Gertrude Njuba, Engineer Katama, and Professor Badu Katerega. This aim of this was to find a solution to the Muslims. A meeting was convened in Kampala, later Mbarara, in 1993, and to drop Sheikh Kakoza and Ruwemba respectively. It replaced the Sheikhs with Muhammad Mukasa and Zubair Kayongo from Kibuli faction. However, the president nullified the elections that the president had put up that committee to come up with a solution, but the committee ended up electing the leaders. And among the people they elected was Sheikh Ahmed Mukasa and Zubair Kayongo. But the president said, no, my point was to put up a conference and give me back the recommendation. So the appointment of Mukasa became another political issue between the state and the Muslims, because the president did not agree how they are appointed. And indeed, it is known, the swearing-in ceremony that was supposed to be held at Kuroko Tower was stopped by then the Vice President of Uganda by the names of Dr. Samson Chiseka, but later took place at Wandega Mosque and operated again at Kibuli as a faction. Sheikh remembers this in 1997 was also a way forward for the Muslims, because they saw that the death of Ruwemba, because his deputy was also getting very old, Sheikh Muhammad Semakula was too old to cling to power. Then the Muslims found a solution whereby to find unification of Muslims. For instance, Hassan Basajja Balaba was a Chibuli candidate for chairman. Various sectors like Chibuli and others sent their representatives in order to form a unity government at Uganda Muslim Supreme Council. Chibuli sent for instance, Hassan representing various. For example, Hassan Basajja Balaba was a Chibuli candidate who became a chairman, and as we know, Kakoza was the muftiship. However, Mubaje, who garnished a lot of support from eastern, western, and northern Uganda, emerged victorious in the election. Sheikh Twaibu Mukuye from the Ruwemba camp became the deputy mufti. Ahmed Adrama, who was supporting Mubaje, was elected the chairman, and Basajja became a deputy chairman from Chibuli, now kicked out. However, 10 sheikhs from Chibuli led by Sheikh Zubair Kayongo. However, 10 sheikhs from Chibuli led by the late Sheikh Zubair Kayongo, or Supreme Mufti, denounced the election of Mubaje during that time in 1997 and vowed never to be loyal to him. They included Sheikh Kamlegea as the mastermind behind the protest against Mubaje administration. The short honeymoon, although the inter era can be considered a short honeymoon, it represents a lot of practical reasons. The longest period of winter in the history of Islam community was between 2000 and 2008. That's when Muslims had some unity, united, and Important to note that this short harmony could have lasted longer if only the issue of properties did not emerge. Indeed, the sale of Muslim property was another factor that has also increased the Muslim wrangles. It should be noted, professionally and ethically, the stakeholders at Old Kampala with other small faith-based organizations like the Catholics and Protestants have also tried to find a solution, but these solutions have not come up. This leads us to important issue of operating religious organization. Now, we all know that under Cap 10, where Muslims were given that the law allows the Muslims to handle issues within Islamic jurisprudence. But as we know, that we have a lot of politics within Islam, and also even the law is not clear of how the operation of Muslim Sharia courts would work. So this one has also left the Muslim conflict in a problem. So what is the way forward? In attempt to forgive and forward the way, I still wish to make it clear that since all odds have been defied by the crisis in Muslim leadership in Uganda, the wrangles may be reduced and controlled, and insofar as the following recommendations are put. Interreligious Council. If we put the Interreligious Council in neutral organization whereby, for example, recently we had the problem of government basically and others, you see that the Intelligence Council tried to unite the differences, and this was a big issue, or was a landmark solution to politics in Uganda. So if the Muslims also have this Intelligence Council whereby there is peace, unity and development program roles in Muslim affairs, then even we can borrow from other fellow brothers from other faith. This would be a very good point for Islamic conflict. Another point is revamping the constitution. When you look at the constitution of a Muslim community, which was put prior to Mubaje's election, the constitution is very ambiguous. It is like a company's, it is like setting up a company with just articles of association and memorandum. The Muslims, in order to prepare and to prosper in our development, there is urgent need to revise and draft a new constitution in order that will help the Muslims to go forward. And indeed, the term limit should also be taken out. For example, fixing term limit that a leader should be in power until he retires at the age of 75 is quite ambiguous. 2. Establishing of Muslim think tank. We should have Muslim scholars, that these Muslim scholars would be pertaining, because a lot of Muslims talk with no knowledge, with no research. We need a think tank to think for the Muslims. The Muslim think tank should involve intellectuals and the youth, the young, who should independently seek Muslim solution to Muslim problem, so as to handle issues pertaining to Muslim wrangles, since problems is solvable. When men and women of good thought in prayers and function, diversity, believe in God, then there is prosperity that they can come to a solution. So we should avoid taking our Muslim issues to places that are not Islamic, for example, courts or the government. So the tank will help the Muslims to find out solutions to our pertaining conflict, because Muslims will know our problems better than non-Muslims. So we should think about this, because even other faith get problems, but they solve their problems without resorting to the president. Indeed, let me put it to emphasize this. Amini's support in Islam, most government thought that Islam and the political structure of Uganda, they have the power to be the mediators of Islam. This is wrong. Catholics is a big faith. They solve their problems through their dialogue as Catholics. Muslims should separate our region from state. The state should not involve in our religious affairs. And this is why we need a think tank with a high level of command to come up with the solutions to this problem. Then there is a dialogue. Dialogue whereby people of 2 or 3 people can sit together, not debating, not arguing, but to find solutions to ongoing problems. It should be noted that Uganda was the first country in the whole world in 1888 to start mediation. America started mediation in 1893. So since we are the source of mediation throughout the world and throughout the whole in the whole world, that mediation has become a landmark solution mechanism. Then it is high time the Muslims had a dialogue. If Muslims can unite with the people of other faiths and ideologies, and then this is also teaching of Islam and Quran. This will help the Muslims to go forward. To this effect, I make it very clear. God created humanity into races and tribes. God made us into tribes and races to know each other. So the differences would make us better. So even if we have our different ideologies, it is high time the Muslim made a dialogue. We sit on a table so that we can start finding solutions to our own problems. Then, since a car has got side mirrors and side mirrors face behind, so if you don't know where you're coming from, it is hard to know where you are going. So it is important to appoint or select a council of elders forum. This will help the Muslims to solve our problems. It will be an effective mediation process. The Muslim community in Uganda should form a national elders forum. Both sides of the divided groups. Members in the forum should not subscribe to either Old Kampala or Chibuli, but must conform to the moral principles that govern Islamic affairs. Organization of Islamic Conference should be brought on board with its 52 member states in solving and uniting Muslims. This in spite of the current argument that Uganda Muslims need a Ugandan solution. This is not clear. There are people who say that a Uganda problem need Uganda solution. If we get people from OIC who are big donors of Muslims here in Uganda, like IU and other organizations, like they are the people even supported the Maker agreement. So if we involve them into our affairs, then this would be another landmark solution. The other issue is gender, age and gender mainstream, the role of the youth. In my own research, solving Muslim problem needs an upward approach where the focus should be on the youth and women has the answers to the Muslim problem. The youths and women, who are the majority now in Uganda, are a stronger force to reckon that they need to be involved in our Islam problems. They are actively basing the issue of stereotyping that surrounding Islam and women, that they are not involved and the youth should abort. So we need these young or the women to know the problems of Muslims so that they also get engaged, because they are the new leaders of the Muslim community. And by doing so, the madrasat will also train and nurture them effectively, and this will create a better Muslim community. Advanced leadership training centers. We should have training centers for dawah. So you find that now you find a lot of sheikhs take microphones, one abuses the other, they don't give the respect. Even I wonder, I gave an example that when Imam Shafi found Malik in Mecca, though they have different ideologies, they respect each other. Everyone told the other, why don't you lead the prayers? The other said, you lead prayers. The other said, you read. So they had that respect. Sheikhs of today, do not think that you have the most piety. Respect one another. Stop abusing one another, claiming to have more piety than the other person. It is high time Muslims of today and the sheikhs get a training on dawah, because this will help with the Muslims to move forward. Constitutional review is a very important factor, as I said. The constitution itself is very, very ambiguous. So we need the Muslim constitution to be amended immediately, because it was, as I said, what the constitution was made during the time prior to election of Mubaje. It was more of a company's registration with articles and memorandum, not a constitution governing more than 10 million Muslim Ugandans. Then Muslim Peace Council. There is a need to establish an independent Muslim Peace Council to address grievances in the Muslim community for peaceful relations and harmonious coexistence of different people in a given society. This could work as a permanent conflict resolution machinery in Uganda. True faith, then the issue of self-sustenance. We should also have a budget and auditing account that will help the Muslim budget and also to finance our sheikhs. Professionalism in property management. One of the landmark division that took away the honeymoon, as I said, was the sale of the Muslim property. It is high time. I call upon the Muslim community that we should try to avoid the Mufti should be the head of the property. We should have another management at the Supreme Council, that one is for accounts, another is for property. Other places like in London, in Sweden, Muslims have separated management positions, and this one has left Islam. It has made Islam to progress. So the Mufti should not be the trustee to sell and also allow purchase, because if we put limitation of his power and what he has to do, this will help future wrangles of property selling of Muslims, and this will help Islam to move forward. A point to note: UNESCO should employ staff who are professional, ethical, technical, and God-fearing. Staff should always be assured of job security and promotion. Another point to note as a solution: a conflict resolution mechanism should be worked out to avoid going to courts of law, as is the current practice, or consider the use of alternative dispute resolution. What I'm trying to say, as a PhD holder in alternative dispute resolution, I call upon my brothers, do not plan to go to courts. The more you go to courts, you make the lawyers to fight and create a vacuum to be used by them to explore and make money. So it is high time we make sure that we take our solutions, our problems, to alternative dispute resolution. For example, mediation, arbitration, where two parties sit on a table and come up with a solution, or mediation. This will help Muslims to prosper. A point to note: remember in the case of Mubaje, and which was about Muslim wrangles, Sheikh Kakozo of Masaka was asked in the court to bring a testimony. He said that the witness is my God, and he raised up the Quran. The court said, what you have said is truth, but where is Allah? We need Allah to be cross-examined on the facts you said. Unfortunately, Allah could not come to court. So you find that we're going to court. These are stupid questions that are asked in courts. So we should not allow our religion to be so weak. So we should avoid and stop taking cases to courts. And also takabur, as we know that one of the biggest sin that Allah said in the Quran, where Iblis was said, was takabur. Those who claim supremacy, those who claim to be the leaders, should not have so much takabur that they think they are the best. Coming down is a solution. A point to note: when the Prophet was in Mecca, it is well known that he was told, please delete article number 4 on the Epistle of Hudaybiyah, that you are not a prophet. Though he was a prophet, he used his wisdom and said, okay, he deleted it. But this one did not allow. This was not an impediment for prosperity. So if you're a leader or you're a hereditary leader, please calm down. If there are problems in Islam and you think that your power, or you have takabur, that if I come down, then I'll lose my power, please, we ask you kindly, however powerful you are, please leave the takaburu and then help Islam to prosper, because one day you'll be in Jahannam, or you'll be questioned for the takabur, and this is one of the worst sins. So those who claim to be leaders, those who claim to be more superior, those who claim to be more knowledgeable, whereby you think you are attacking another and then you are gaining glory, remember, kulli nafsi dhalika al-maut. So the other question is legal contradiction. Uganda Muslims should avoid the contradictions resulting from using two different legal systems at a go. For example, missing the Western legal perspective and Sharia law at the same time. So like now, the Constitution talks about the Sharia code, but you find that some of people say, okay, if you want a Sharia code, the Sharia code should be composed with those people who also know the law of the land. No. If Islamic perspective, those who know the Sharia should start. It is high time the Muslims in this government, before the government starts swearing in the other leaders, let them establish, fund what we call Islamic Sharia. And Islamic Sharia is very, very important, like Islamic finance. The world economies now are depending on Islamic finance. If Islamic finance is a solution to capitalistic ideology and economic malaise, it is high time we set up our Sharia court, like we have our Zakah house. which is headed by Dr. Anas Khalisa. It is high time we leave the Islamic issues to be governed by Sharia. The procedure, the judicial procedures of we lawyers are completely different from the Sharia perspective. In a synopsis, in my discussion, it should also be noted that mediation is the best solution. Dialogue is the best way forward. Dialogue, mediation, and arbitration are the best mechanism for helping Muslims going forward. And also, do not attack fellow Muslims. Try to find where you can speak to a fellow brother, even if he has made a mistake. You are not the best among other Muslims to have piety. So, please help us. And also, Muslims should know of respecting their leaders, as it is well known that Nabi Musa and Haruna, when they went to Fir'auna, Allah told them that I know the best people who have piety. Do not abuse the president or abuse others, claiming you are more religious than others. You don't know your faith. So I call upon those who pretend or those who claim supremacy in knowledge, who claim to be more piety, to please calm down, because arrogance is not a symbol of Islam. And even takabbur should abort immediately, inshallah. And in further of my conclusion, the faction that are involved in the wrangles are so keen, and they can easily come up and also find a solution. Allah cannot change our condition unless we change. The Quran says that I will not change your situation unless you change. So the Muslims of today, we should change in order to look forward to our problems. Another point that I should also emphasize, now that we have more than 30,000 graduates in Islam, we have PhD holders, and now Muslims. It is now, you see now, like we have Muhammadin Babazi, Asmani Basarirwa being leading councils now in the government. It is high time the government chose among Muslim intellectuals to be a base in government. This would also be a solution to Muslim problems, so that whenever problems pertaining to Muslims are called upon, Muslims within a government are engaged. May Allah grant tawfiq, increase our faith, iman and dhikr, and may Allah allow what I've discussed, where it has offended any Muslim, please, I do apologize, and where it has become very good, please, I seek Allah's guidance, and may I be granted Jannah on the hereafter. A point note, may Allah also bless our empire, Salam TV, and also Sheikh Karim Khalisa, the chairman Dawa, who works so much to see that Dawa in Islam in Uganda goes to every nation, to every place, and also prosperity. A point to note, I also thank my cameraman Mohsin Khalisa, who has called me so many occasions to deliver such a speech. Wa adha, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
La ilaha illallah, Allahu Akbar, Muhammad Rasulullah, Ya Habib Allah.